Well, as the ceasefire in Gaza holds for now, the occupied West Bank remains a flashpoint. Since October 7, settler violence and Israeli demolitions have reached unprecedented levels. In January of this year, Israel launched a large-scale military operation named Iron Wall, displacing tens of thousands of Palestinians, according to rights groups, and affecting access to basic services like healthcare. Well, for a look at the humanitarian situation there, I'm joined on set by Anne-Claire Yaish, who's Handicap International's Director for Palestinian Territories. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks a lot for welcoming me.
Let's start then by giving us an idea of the kinds of things that your teams have seen on the ground there in the West Bank. We've been hearing about, violence ramping up for a long time, but specifically since October 7.
Yeah, that's true that in the midst of the horror of the situation in Gaza, it has gone very silently in the West Bank, while you have a very, very clear and very neat annexion of the West Bank. So concretely, that means that at the entrance of every single village, every single town in Palestine, in the West Bank, you have a barrier, you have a siege around every single village, every single town, which means that people and children can't access their school, healthcare, can't travel to work. So that has made the life of the people extremely difficult. And plus of this, we have had a drastic rise in the settler violence and in the settlement expansion over the past 2 years. I know we have been repeating the same over the past 15 years, but this situation now, over the past 2 years, has completely changed the face of the West Bank. So over the past year, just this year, you had 200 attacks on health services in the West Bank, which mean like attacks on ambulances, mobile clinics, health centers. We had even we mentioned also our partner Al Jalil Community Center that is in Jenin refugee camp that was itself attacked. We have found out in the social media that our center, our wheelchair, our crutches were played by the Israeli soldiers. So like we have video of Israeli soldiers playing and throwing our wheelchairs around the center. So it became extremely difficult to continue working and to continue assisting the most vulnerable in the West Bank, while the situation is extremely is deteriorating drastically. You have also the collapse of education services, the collapse of health services. To give you an idea, this year, with the start of the new school year, the children have classes in person 3 days per week because the teachers are paid 30%, 40%, have not been paid for a while. So the teacher can't afford anymore to pay their transportation. Children can't afford to pay their transportation when there is not even a checkpoint. So we are working in trying to provide alternatives. We have a huge network of partners and community-based agents to provide health and education services, but the situation is drastically deteriorating, and there is a huge need to protect the civilians and to enable the access to the services.
Well, let's look at that specific example you mentioned of Al Jalil Health Center. First, give us an idea of what kind of work they did before all of this and why that's so important.
It's extremely important because they are the organization that provide in the refugee camp of Jenin and in other refugee camps around the West Bank. They provide physiotherapy, re-education services. They provide prostheses for children and adults who have been amputated. So it's vital because we tend to think that wheelchair is not the priority. It is the priority because when someone needs an appareillage, a tool, this person cannot then access education, cannot access services, cannot access food, cannot access his livelihood. So those tools and those re-educations are vital. And that's for the people who are suffering from disability, for long life disabilities, but it's also allowing an early detection of the needs and ensuring that people can be treated on time so they don't suffer their whole life from those from those injuries or from those disabilities.
And given this context of all the destruction and these health facilities being targeted, is your team still able to work on the ground there? How do they go about that?
Yeah, the team is quite amazing. The team has demonstrated a resilience that is quite incredible. So we have a team that is able on a daily basis to readapt depending on where we have access, what are the checkpoints that are being closed, how we can navigate around the roads that are still able to continue in the field, provide the essential services on health, so re-education processes, on inclusive education, and also on the mining. So the team is constantly on a daily basis readapting. But it's also thanks to all this network of partnership with local partners, with community-based agents that have been specifically trained. The point is that we should not be in a situation where we need to readapt and to constantly spend all this energy trying to do our work as humanitarian worker and to provide those services. We should be allowed to do our work. But yeah, again, I praise the capacity of the team to continue deliver whatever are the context and whatever are the challenges.
So in terms of humanitarian aid, what is most in need right now?
In terms of humanitarian, I think everything is in need, no? Like the situation and the entire Palestine is such a level that it's extremely, it's huge. In terms of primary needs, we need to protect the civilian. That's the very first thing, because if we don't protect the civilian, nothing is going to be possible. But then clearly in the West Bank, we are scaling up all our activities and operations in terms of health and education because of this collapse. Because now we are facing a generation of children who have no access to education, and especially for the children with disabilities that have zero access to education. And then we are also scaling up our activities in terms of health and providing the services for the children and for the adults.
And we don't have much time left, but if we can finish just on a word about Gaza. You've highlighted the need to go in there and the problem is the unexploded munitions, right?
Absolutely. We estimate that there is about 70,000 tons of explosive, and this is just an estimation, of explosive that fall into Gaza. Like, to give you an image, it would represent 6 times Hiroshima in just the Gaza Strip. So that's how much. Over the past 2 years, every day, 10 children have been amputated or have lost a limb, like have lost an arm or have lost a leg. Like, the numbers are insane, and these numbers are going to increase. So now with this fragile ceasefire, we can start working on the decontamination. We have to do this right now if we don't want the figures of children being injured or people being injured continue to increase, and to be able to provide the basic assistance right now.
Right, it's certainly huge work ahead. Thank you very much, and Claire Yayish, for coming in and sharing your insight.